The badge glinted under the sodium streetlights like a predator's eye, and Officer Harlan's laugh sliced through the humid Chicago night sharper than the summer wind off Lake Michigan. "Look at this fairy, boys. Thinks a little sticker's gonna make the world bend over for him." Jason's heart slammed against his ribs, the rainbow pin on his jacket suddenly feeling like a target painted on his chest. As the circle of uniforms closed in, their shadows swallowing the sidewalk whole. He'd only stepped out for coffee, the kind with too much cream to steady his nerves before another dead-end shift at the community center. But now the world narrowed to Harlan's sneer and the metallic click of a baton tapping against a palm. Jason's voice cracked like thin ice. "I'm just walking here." But it drowned in their chorus of jeers, the betrayal of the city he loved turning venomous in an instant. Then, from the alley's mouth, a gravelly timbre cut the air like a siren's wail. "Back the hell off my boy." Jeffrey Harlan, no relation to the pig in blue, thank God, emerged from the gloom, his retired commander's frame still broad as a Buick, eyes like storm clouds rolling in off the lake. And in that moment, Jason knew the reckoning had come not for him alone, but for the ghosts they'd both buried years ago. Jason wiped the steam from the community center's window, staring out at the gray sprawl of Pilsen where the murals bled into the brick like open wounds. It was one of those Chicago mornings in late spring, the kind where the air hung heavy with the promise of rain, and the L train rattled overhead like a migraine you couldn't shake. At 28, he'd learned to read the city's moods better than his own. Restless, layered, always on the verge of breaking open. The rainbow pin on his lapel caught the fluorescent light, a tiny flag he'd worn since college, back when coming out felt like declaring war on his own bloodline. His phone buzzed on the desk, a text from Ryan lighting up the screen. "Miss you already. Dinner at that taco spot on 18th? Make it romantic." Jason smiled, a flicker of warmth cutting through the chill. Ryan, with his easy laugh and calloused hands from years swinging a hammer on construction sites, had been his anchor for 2 years now. They'd met at a pride rally in Boys Town, Jason handing out flyers for queer youth programs. Ryan showing up with a sign that read straight ally? Nah, just here for the glitter. It was cheesy, sure, but in a city that chewed up tenderness and spat it out, cheesy was gold. He typed back, "Only if you promise no more bad dad jokes." But as he hit send, the door to the center banged open, letting in a gust that smelled of diesel and desperation. Mrs. Lopez, the center's director, hustled in, her face pinched like she'd bitten into something sour. "Jason, honey, we got trouble. That kid from last week. Tommy? He's back, and he's roughed up bad." Jason was on his feet before she finished, grabbing his jacket, the one with the pin that had started more conversations than he could count, half of them worth the hassle. Tommy was 16, all sharp elbows and sharper eyes, the kind of kid who showed up at the center because home was a minefield and school was a gauntlet. Last week, he'd confessed in a whisper that his dad had found his hidden stash of magazines. Not porn, just stories, man, stories about guys like me, and the bruises on his arms told the rest. They found Tommy huddled in the back lot, knees drawn up, a split lip blooming red against his brown skin. "They jumped me after class," he muttered, eyes fixed on the cracked asphalt. "Called me a freak. Said I was ruining the neighborhood." Jason knelt, keeping his voice steady as lake water. "Who? Names? Tommy. We report this." But Tommy just shook his head, the fear in him older than his years. "Cops were there, laughed about it. One of them said, 'Kid's got it coming, prancing around like that.'" Jason's stomach twisted. Cops, the thin blue line that was supposed to protect, not prod the wounds. He'd seen it too often in Pilsen, the patrols that lingered too long on corners where brown and black kids gathered, the casual slurs tossed like gum wrappers. His own run-ins had been brushes, a pat down that lingered, a "watch yourself, kid," laced with something uglier. But he pushed it down, focused on Tommy. "You're safe here. We'll get you patched up, and tomorrow we talk options. Shelter if you need it, legal aid." Mrs. Lopez brewed chamomile tea that tasted like regret, and they sat in the dim office, piecing together a plan. Jason texted Ryan an update, late tonight. Rough one, and got back a thumbs-up emoji with a heart. Simple, solid. That's what he loved about Ryan. No drama, just presence. Unlike his own family, fractured like the L tracks after a derailment. Jeffrey. The name alone conjured a ghost, tall, taciturn, with a mustache that could hide secrets and hands that once built birdhouses in the backyard of their Oak Park split level. Retired Chicago PD commander, 20 years on the force, badge number 472 etched into Jason's memory like a scar. That, the man who'd taught him to throw a curveball and tie a Windsor knot, who'd clapped him on the back after high school graduation with a gruff, "Proud of you, son." But pride has edges, and when Jason came out at 20, fresh from Northwestern with a degree in social work and a boyfriend named Kyle on his arm, those edges cut deep. It started with silence. Jeffrey at the dinner table, fork scraping plate like nails on chalkboard. Then the questions. You sure it's a phase? Cities full of confusion. Jason had laughed it off at first, but the laughs dried up when Jeffrey stopped calling, stopped showing for birthdays. Ellen, Jason's mom, had tried to bridge it. He's old school, give him time. But time stretched into years, a chasm widened by Jeffrey's pride and Jason's resolve. Last they'd spoken was 2 years back, at a forced family barbecue, where Jeffrey had grunted "good to see you," and eyed the rainbow bracelet on Jason's wrist like it was contraband. Now, as Jason locked up the center, the sky bruising purple, he wondered if bridges like that ever got rebuilt or just crumbled into the river. He walked the 5 blocks to his apartment, the pin winking like a dare. Ryan was waiting on the stoop, takeout bags steaming in the chill. "Tacos acquired," he said, pulling Jason into a hug that smelled of cumin and sawdust. "And I brought extra guac. Figured you'd need fortification." They ate cross-legged on the living room floor, the TV murmuring some cop show, irony thick as the salsa. Ryan listened as Jason vented about Tommy, his hand tracing lazy circles on Jason's knee. "You're doing good work, babe. Changing the world one kid at a time." Jason leaned into him, the weight lifting just a fraction. "Feels like swimming upstream sometimes." That night, tangled in sheets that still held the faint scent of Ryan's cologne, Jason dreamed of water. Not the calm lake, but a roiling current pulling him under. He woke to rain pattering the window, Ryan's arm heavy across his waist, and a nagging sense that the current was closing in. The next week blurred into routine. Counseling sessions where teens spilled secrets like spilled milk, grant proposals that read like prayers, stolen moments with Ryan stealing kisses in the alley behind the center. But the pin stayed on, a quiet rebellion. It was Friday, payroll day, when Mrs. Lopez pulled him aside. "Board meeting next week. They're talking budget cuts. Youth programs first on the chopping block." Jason's jaw tightened. "We fight it." She nodded, but her eyes said what words didn't. "Fights like this wore you down to bone." Saturday brought a rally, national coming out day prep, a march through the loop to the bean, where the city's reflection warped everything into something bearable. Jason wore his best jacket, pin gleaming, Ryan at his side with a megaphone and a grin. The crowd swelled with signs. "Love wins, queer and here," faces from every corner of the rainbow. Chants rose like steam, and for an hour, Chicago felt like home. But home has back alleys, and as the march dispersed, Jason lingered to chat with a group of trans kids from the center. Ryan headed to grab waters from a vendor, promising to circle back. That's when they appeared, 3 uniforms, off-duty but unmistakable, sauntering from a dive bar across the street. The leader, Harlan, burly with a neck like a fireplug, zeroed in on Jason's pin like a hawk on a field mouse. Well, Harlan drawled, breath sour with beer. "If it ain't the parade float. You boys done twirling yet?" His partners chuckled, a low rumble that set Jason's teeth on edge. He straightened, voice even. "Just exercising our rights, officer. No harm." Harlan stepped closer, close enough Jason could see the sweat beading on his brow. "Rights? In my city? That pin's a provocation, kid. Advertising for trouble." The words hung, laced with the thread of hands that knew how to cuff and worse. Jason's pulse thrummed, memories flashing. Tommy's split lip, his own high school locker smeared with slurs. He glanced for Ryan, But the crowd had thinned, the loop's bustle swallowing him. "Walk away," Jason said. Firm but not loud, not yet. But Harlan's hand shot out, flicking the pin hard enough to sting. "Or what? Gonna cry rainbow tears?" The laughter swelled, and Jason felt the isolation crash in. The city vast and indifferent, his father a continent away in memory. That's when the voice boomed from the shadows, Jeffrey's silhouette materializing like a thunderhead. "Back the hell off my boy." Jeffrey's presence hit like a squad car siren, abrupt and authoritative, scattering the uniforms like pigeons from a plaza. Harlan blinked, recognition dawning slow as dawn over the lake. "Commander Harlan? Shit, sir, didn't see you there. We were just—" "Save it," Jeffrey growled. His voice a low rumble honed from decades barking orders in precincts that smelled of stale coffee and regret. He positioned himself between Jason and the cops, broad shoulders squared, the faded PD windbreaker doing little to hide the gunmetal hair or the limp from that old knee injury. "You touch my son again, and I'll have your badges on a spit before dawn." Jason stood frozen, the flicked pin throbbing like a fresh bruise. "Son." The word landed soft as a lifeline, pulling him from the undertow. Jeffrey hadn't called him that in years, not since the coming out, not since the silence stretched into a void. Now here he was, uninvited, unannounced, eyes locked on Harlan with the intensity of a man who'd stared down riots and rookies alike. Harlan muttered something about just joking, backed off with his cronies in tow, their retreat a shuffle of scuffed boots and sidelong glares. The loop hummed on, oblivious, tourists snapping selfies at the bean, cabs honking like impatient geese. Jason's breath came shallow, adrenaline sour in his throat. "Dad? What the— How are you even here?" Jeffrey turned, his face a map of lines etched by lost sleep and unspoken wars. Up close, he looked smaller than Jason remembered, the commander's armor cracked by time. "Saw the rally on the news this morning. Figured you'd be in the thick of it. Drove in from the suburbs." He paused, rubbing the back of his neck, a gesture Jason knew from childhood. Jeffrey's tell for discomfort. "Was gonna just watch from the car. Then I spot this." He nodded at the pin, and Jason braced for the old judgment, the "why can't you just tone it down?" But Jeffrey's eyes held something else, regret, maybe, or the ghost of it. "You okay?" Jeffrey added, softer now, like he was testing the waters. Jason swallowed, the crowd's energy still buzzing in his veins. "Yeah, thanks." It was inadequate, a placeholder for the avalanche of questions piling up. Where had he been? Why now? And Ryan, where was Ryan? He scanned the faces, spotting him weaving through with plastic cups sloshing. Ryan's eyes widened at the scene, then narrowed in protective fury as he clocked Jeffrey. "Everything good?" Ryan asked, handing over the water, his free arm slipping around Jason's waist. A casual claim that said mine, safe. Jeffrey's gaze flicked to the touch, lingering a beat too long, but he nodded. "Your friend's got spine. Harlan's an ass. Always was, even under my watch." "Ex-partner," Jason corrected automatically, then flushed. Introductions felt surreal amid the adrenaline crash. "Ryan, this is my dad, Jeffrey." "Dad?" "Ryan." Handshakes exchanged, firm but wary, like two dogs circling the same yard. They ended up at a corner cafe, the kind with mismatched chairs and baristas who didn't blink at rainbow flags in the window. Jeffrey ordered black coffee, no sugar, same as always, and Jason watched him over the rim of his latte, searching for the man who'd once tossed a football in the park, laughing till dusk. Ryan, bless him, kept the conversation light. Gripes about construction bids, the Cubs' latest slump, but the undercurrent pulled strong. "So," Jeffrey said finally, when Ryan stepped away for a refill, "you two solid?" Jason nodded, tracing the pin's edge. "Yeah, he's good to me. Doesn't make me explain myself." The words carried weight, an olive branch wrapped in barb. Jeffrey sipped, stared out at the rain-slick streets. "I owe you an apology, Jay. Been turning it over like a bad case file. That night you told us. Me and your mom." I froze. Thought it was my fault, somehow. Pushed too hard with the sports, the be a man bullshit. Didn't know how to fix it. Jason's chest tightened, old hurts bubbling up. It wasn't yours to fix, Dad. It was just me. Who I am. He leaned forward, voice low. But you ghosted. Years, Dad. I needed you. Jeffrey's jaw worked, Adam's apple bobbing. Lost my way. After retirement, the department's all I had. Then the divorce, your mom said I was married to the badge. Maybe she was right. Buried myself in consulting gigs. Avoiding the mirror. He met Jason's eyes, raw. Seeing you out there today, standing your ground, reminded me what pride really looks like. The word hung pride, and Jason felt the first crack in the ice. Ryan returned, sliding into the booth with a fresh round, and the talk shifted to safer ground. Ellen's new garden in Florida, the center's programs. Jeffrey listened, asked questions, real ones about the kids Jason helped, the grants they chased. By the time they parted, the rain had eased to mist, and Jeffrey clapped Jason's shoulder, the touch lingering. Call me, or don't. But I'm here now. Jason watched him go, taillights fading into the loop's glow, a knot of hope and wariness twisting in his gut. Ryan squeezed his hand. That was intense. You okay? Jason nodded, pulling him close under the cafe's awning. Yeah, maybe it's a start. But starts have shadows, and Jason's came calling Monday morning. The center buzzed with post-rally energy. Kids sketching posters, volunteers sorting donations. When Mrs. Lopez waved him into her office. Boards pushing hard on cuts. And there's this. She slid a memo across the desk. Anonymous complaint, alleging inappropriate advocacy at the center, citing the rally. Jason's name wasn't mentioned, but the rainbow pin was described in damning detail. Promoting division in a family neighborhood. Harlan, Jason muttered, the pieces slotting like a bad puzzle. Off-duty or not, grudges didn't clock out. Mrs. Lopez sighed. We fight it, but it'll drag. Parents are spooked. Jason spent the afternoon on calls, legal aid, allies in the queer network, his resolve hardening like concrete. Ryan picked him up after, face stormy. Heard from a buddy on site, Harlan's crew's been mouthing off at the bars. Calling you a troublemaker. Jason's laugh was bitter. Story of my life. That night, over pasta in their cramped kitchen, Ryan broached it gentle. Your dad showing up. Think he'll back you if this blows up. Jason forked a noodle, evasive. Don't know. Don't want to drag him in. But the seed was planted, doubt creeping like ivy. Midweek, the storm broke. Tommy didn't show for his session. And when Jason tracked him to the group home, the super shook his head. Ran off last night. Said something about not being welcome. Panic clawed Jason's throat. He knew the street's hunger, how they devoured kids like Tommy. He rallied the center's outreach team, pounding pavement till dusk, Ryan at his side with flashlights and flyers. They found him at midnight, curled under a viaduct, shivering in a hoodie too thin for the damp. Couldn't go back, Tommy whispered as Jason wrapped him in a blanket. Dad found out about the center. Said, I'm a disgrace. Ryan drove them to a safe house, the silence heavy. In the rear view, Jason caught Tommy's eyes. Mirrors of his own at that age, fractured but fierce. Back home, exhaustion hit like a freight train. Ryan drew a bath, the steam curling like secrets. You're carrying too much, he murmured, soaping Jason's back. Jason leaned into it, the touch a bomb. Can't stop, not when it's kids like him. Ryan's lips brushed his shoulder. Then let me carry some, and your dad, give him a shot. Family's messy, but it's yours. Jason texted Jeffrey that night, impulsive, rough week. Could use advice. The reply came swift. Oak Park. Saturday. Burgers on me. Simple words, but they unlocked something. A door creaking open after years bolted shut. Saturday dawned crisp, leaves skittering like confetti. Jason drove the familiar route, past the old high school where he'd lettered in track, the park where Jeffrey had taught him to bait a hook. Oak Park hadn't changed much. Victorians sagging with history, cafes spilling onto sidewalks. Jeffrey waited at a greasy spoon, booth by the window, two malts sweating on the formica. They talked halting at first, weather, the Bears' chances, then deeper. Jason laid out the complaint, Tommy's flight, the center's fight. Jeffrey listened, nodding slow. Harlan's poison. I pulled his file once. Disciplinary actions stacked like cordwood. Should have drummed him out. He paused, fingers drumming the table. You want I make calls. Old contacts still owe me. Jason hesitated, the offer a double-edged sword. I appreciate it, but this is my battle. Jeffrey's eyes softened. Not alone, son. Not anymore. By Burger's end, plans sketched loose. Jeffrey digging into Harlan's history, Jason rallying community support. As they hugged goodbye, awkward but real, Jason felt the chasm narrow, just a hair, but betrayal bruise in blind spots. That evening, Ryan's phone lit up during their movie night. A text from an unknown number. Tell your rainbow boy to watch his step. Some fights you don't win. Ryan showed Jason, face hardening. Harlan's bluffing. But Jason saw the fear beneath, the crack in their armor. The week unfurled like a bad hand in poker. Bluff after bluff, each raising the stakes. Jason threw himself into the center's defense, organizing a town hall in Pilsen's heart, where the air hummed with mariachi echoes and the scent of fresh tortillas. He stood at the podium, pin glinting under the community center's harsh lights, voice steady as he outlined the threats. Budget axes, anonymous hate, the cops who patrolled like wolves in sheep's clothing. Families like yours built this neighborhood, he said to the packed room. Moms with babes on hips, elders nodding wise, queer kids peeking from back rows. And we're not backing down. This center isn't just a building. It's a beacon. For Tommy. For every kid told they're wrong for who they love. Applause rippled, fierce and fleeting. But as Jason stepped down, a man in the crowd, stocky, familiar from rally photos, cornered him. Appreciate the fire, kid, but stirring pots draws heat. Harlan's got friends high up. Jason brushed it off, but the warning lodged like a splinter. Ryan was there, hand on his elbow, whispering proud of you, as they slipped out into the night. Home was sanctuary. Their apartment a nest of mismatched furniture and framed pride photos, where Ryan's hugs chased shadows. But even there, doubt whispered. What if the board folds? Jason murmured into Ryan's neck that night. Ryan's reply was a kiss, soft and sure. Then we fight smarter. Together. Jeffrey's involvement simmered low-key. He texted updates. Harlan's got a history of complaints. Buried deep. Working angles. And Jason replied with cautious thanks, the bridge building plank by plank. One evening, Jeffrey called, voice crackling over the line. Your mom's flying in next month. Wants to see you. Us. Jason's throat closed. Ellen, warm, weary Ellen, who'd sent birthday cards with extra stamps for whatever adventure you're on. Tell her. Yeah. I'd like that. But the real fracture came Thursday, rain lashing the windows like accusations. Mrs. Lopez burst into Jason's office, face ashen. Tommy's gone again. And this. She thrust a USB drive, labeled in Sharpie, truth about the center. Jason plugged it in, heart sinking as files bloomed, screenshots of his social media. Rally clips edited to paint him as an agitator. Tommy's intake forms doctored to suggest recruitment. Worst, an audio clip, Harlan's voice drawling to a buddy. That Harlan kid thinks he's a hero. Wait till the parents see what he's really peddling. Betrayal hit visceral, a gut punch. Harlan wasn't just harassing. He was weaponizing the system Jeffrey had once commanded. Jason's hands shook as he copied the files, forwarding to legal. This ends now, he told Mrs. Lopez, but her eyes said how? Ryan found him later, slumped on the couch, laptop glowing accusatory. Babe, breathe. He pulled Jason up, into the kitchen where he cracked beers and plated leftovers. Harlan's scared. Means you're close. Jason leaned on the counter, the cool glass grounding him. Scared people hurt worse. Tommy's out there because of this shit. They drove that night, scouring shelters and underpasses, Ryan's truck cutting through puddles like a blade. No Tommy, but in a dingy diner off Halstead, they overheard whispers. Cops shaking down queer bars, cleaning up after the rally. Ryan's jaw set. My uncle's on the force, good guy. I'll talk to him. Jason nodded, grateful, but the weight pressed heavier. Friday brought Jeffrey to the center, unannounced, bearing a box of Ellen's famous lemon bars. Peace offering, he grunted. They walked the halls, Jeffrey nodding at murals of fierce Latinx icons and rainbow abstracts. Place feels alive, he said. Like you. Jason showed him the files, playing the audio on low. Jeffrey's face darkened. Thunder brewing. Son of a bitch. I trained men like him. Thought I weeded out the rot. He paced, then stopped. I'm going public. Old commander's word still carries. Press conference tomorrow. Jason's pulse spiked. Dad, that's your legacy. Jeffrey cut him off, hand on his shoulder. Legacy's worthless if it don't stand for something. You taught me that. The presser was chaos crammed into the center's gym. Reporters from the Tribune and Sun-Times, activists with signs, Harlan's absence a glaring void. Jeffrey stood tall at the mic, Jason at his side, Ryan in the crowd giving a thumbs up. 25 years commanding Chicago's finest. Jeffrey began, voice booming. And I've seen darkness, but nothing darker than officers who betray their oath. Officer Harlan and his ilk mock the very people they swore to protect. He detailed the complaints, the buried files, his eyes locking on Jason. My son here runs this center, saves lives. And for wearing his truth, he gestured to the pin. He gets targeted. Not on my watch. Questions flew. Commander, why now? And Jeffrey's answer raw. Took me too long to see my own boys fight. Won't take longer to fight for all of them. Cameras flashed, the room electric. Jason's chest swelled, tears pricking. Pride, not pain, for once. After, in the green room, Ellen's voice on speakerphone. Jeffrey Harlan, you old bear. That's my boy up there with you. Laughter broke the tension, and Jason hugged his dad. The embrace fierce. Thanks, he whispered. Jeffrey ruffled his hair, like when he was 10. Family, Jay. That's the badge that matters. But elation's a fragile high. That night, as Jason and Ryan celebrated with takeout Thai on the fire escape, Ryan's phone buzzed insistent. He glanced, then paled. It's my uncle. Harlan's crew, they found Tommy. Beat bad. In custody now, but he's asking for you. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and despair. Fluorescent hum mocking the heart monitor's beeps. Tommy lay small in the bed, face swollen, eyes hollow. They said it was my fault, he rasped. For going to the center. For me. Jason sat vigil, holding his hand, Ryan fetching ice chips. Not your fault. Never. But inside, rage simmered. Harlan's were spilling onto innocence. Jeffrey arrived at dawn, coffee in hand, face grim. Charges pending. My contacts pushed it through. But his eyes on Tommy held sorrow. This system's broken, son. We fix it together. Jason nodded, the pact sealed in silence. As Ryan drove them home, sun cresting the skyline, Jason felt the current shift. Not pulling under, but carrying forward. But betrayal's echo lingered. A whisper of fractures yet to mend. The aftermath crashed like waves on Navy Pier. Relentless, unpredictable, foaming with fury and fragile hope. News vans camped outside the center, reporters hungry for the Harlan showdown, turning Pilsen stoops into stages. Jason fielded calls till his voice cracked, the pin now a talisman pressed against his palm during interviews. It's not about one cop, he'd say, eyes steady for the camera. It's about a system that lets hate hide in plain sight. The board relented on cuts, swayed by the spotlight and petitions stacked like cordwood. Volunteers poured in, kids like Tommy, now in a foster program with counseling, drawing strength from the surge. But victory's shine dulled quick when Harlan's allies circled wagons. Whispers in precincts. Old commanders gone soft, chasing ghosts. Leaks to tabloids painted Jason as a radical activist pushing divisive agendas. Tommy's beating spun as youth gang trouble. Ryan bore the brunt at work. Jeers from Harlan's buddies on overlapping sites, tools misplaced in retaliation. Ignore 'em, he'd say. But Jason saw the strain. the way Ryan's shoulders hunched after shifts. One night, over lukewarm pizza in their dim kitchen, Ryan cracked. Uncle says internal affairs is dragging feet. Harlan's got pull unions old boys club. His fork stabbed a pepperoni vicious. Feels like we're punching fog. Jason pulled him close, the chair creaking under their weight. Then we punch harder. Jeffrey's got more dirt. Let's use it. Ryan's laugh was hollow. Your dad's all in now. Kinda wild. Jason nodded, kissing his temple. Yeah, wild and right. Jeffrey dove deep, his home office a war room of file boxes and flickering laptop screens. He invited Jason over midweek, the Oak Park house unchanged. Leather recliner by the fireplace, photos of younger days on the mantel. Jeffrey in dress blues, Jason gap-toothed at 8, fishing poles crossed. Ellen's voice echoed from a framed wedding pic, her smile a beacon. Got something, Jeffrey said, spreading documents like a deck of cards. Incident reports, witness statements, Harlan's trail of slurs and shoves, buried under bureaucracy. This one's gold. 2015. Assault on a trans bartender. Victim recanted under pressure. Jason scanned the pages while rising. Why'd they let it slide? Jeffrey's sigh was a gust. Me partly. Thought it was isolated. Kept the peace. His eyes met Jason's, heavy. Like I kept distance from you. Peace over truth. The admission hung raw as an open wound. Jason gripped the table edge. You get it now? Yeah. Jeffrey's hand covered his, calloused and sure. And I'm sorry, Jay. For the years I let fear call the shots. Tears stung Jason's eyes. Forgiveness a dam breaking slow. Just stay in it, Dad. For real. They strategized till dusk. Leaked the files to trusted journalists. Rally queer orgs for a joint suit. Jeffrey even reached out to his old partner. A captain now, voice gravel over the phone. Oh, you won, Jeff. Let's clean house. As Jason left, Jeffrey hugged him tight. Tell Ryan he's family too. Burgers next week. All 4 of us. The invite warmed like summer sun, but storms don't scatter easy. Saturday, Jason's phone shattered the morning quiet. Mrs. Lopez, frantic. Protest outside Harlan's supporters. Signs calling us groomers. Blocking the door. Ryan was up in a flash, pulling on jeans. I'm going. The scene was a powder keg. 24 picketers, red hats and folded arms, chanting slurs that curdled the air. Center kids peered from windows, faces pale. Jason waded in, megaphone in hand, Ryan at his back. This is a safe space, he called, voice amplified but steady. Hate doesn't get a vote here. A woman lunged, sign jabbing like a spear. Protect our kids. And Ryan stepped forward, arms out. Easy, ma'am. Dialogue, not division. But words met a brick wall. A man spat at Jason's feet, the glob landing inches from the pin. Camera's word, press, bystanders, and Jason felt the noose tighten. Then sirens wailed, squad cars pulling up. Jason braced for worse, but the officers dispersed the crowd efficient. No jeers, just procedure. One saluted Jeffrey's name when Jason mentioned the presser. Commander's watching, the cop said. Small win, but it stuck. That afternoon, Tommy visited the center, stitches out, spirit flickering back. Saw you on TV, he said, hugging Jason awkward. Like a superhero. Jason ruffled his hair. Nah, just stubborn. Ryan watched from the door, pride soft in his eyes. But betrayal's blade twists deepest from kin. Monday, Ryan came home late, face thunderous. Site foreman pulled me aside. Harlan's a buddy. Says if I don't distance from you, I'm out. Jason's world tilted. What? Ryan. I told him to shove it. Ryan's voice broke, fists clenched. But babe, the bills. Construction's all I know. Silence stretched, heavy as lead. Jason cupped his face. We'll figure it. Side gigs, my savings. You're not choosing. Ryan's eyes searched his, vulnerable. Love you too much to lose us. They clung then, kisses salt with unshed tears, reaffirming in the quiet hours. but doubt seeded how long before pressure cracked them. Jeffrey called next day. Breakthrough. Tribune's running the expose. Harlan's suspended pending review. Elation surged, and Jason shared it with Ryan over coffee, their hands linked across the table. See? Momentum. Ellen arrived a week later, Florida tan and arms open. The airport reunion was a blur. Hugs, tears, Jeffrey hovering sheepish. Dinner at a Lincoln Park bistro. 4 of them awkward at first, then flowing. Ellen grilled Ryan on his Chicago roots. Born in Bridgeport, ma'am, White Sox through and through. And Jeffrey shared precinct tales, sanitized for company. Jason watched, heart full, the table a tapestry of mended threads. But as plates cleared, Ellen pulled Jason aside. Your dad's changed, honey. Therapy after the divorce. Facing the man in the mirror. Jason's brows rose. Therapy? She nodded. For you, mostly. Realizing he owed you more than silence. The revelation settled deep. A bomb. Later, walking the pier with Ryan. Lights dancing on the water. Jason voiced it. Family's possible, huh? Ryan grinned, arm around his waist. Ours is. Yet the climax loomed. Harlan's desperation a gathering storm. Whispers of retaliation. Threats to Jason's license. Smears on Ryan's job. Jeffrey warned. Heads up. He's cornered. Jason nodded, stealing. The fight wasn't over. It was cresting. October's chill seeped into Chicago's bones, turning the wind off the lake into a knife's edge. Leaves swirled like confetti from a funeral, and Jason woke to frost on the window. Ryan's warmth a bulwark against the cold. The Tribune piece had landed like a grenade, headlines screaming badge of shame. Inside Harlan's hate files, Jeffrey's byline in the op-ed, Jason quoted fierce. Suspensions followed, investigations bloomed, but Harlan didn't fade quiet. He lawyered up, countersuing the Center for Defamation, claiming the rally incited his harassment. Court dates loomed, a gauntlet of depositions and discovery. Jason prepped in stolen hours, the pin his constant, a talisman against the grind. Ryan juggled shifts, picking up bartending nights at a Boys Town dive. Tips are killer, and the crowd's friendly, but exhaustion etched lines around his eyes, and arguments sparked over small things. Forgotten groceries, unanswered texts. I'm handling it, Ryan snapped one evening, slamming a cabinet. Jason recoiled. I know, just let me in. Sorry, Ryan muttered, deflating into a hug. Feels like quicksand. Jason held tighter. Then we tread water together. Jeffrey became the steady pulse. Weekly dinners at the Oak Park house evolved into strategy sessions. Ellen's lemon bars a ritual. She mothered fierce, stocking Jason's fridge, quizzing Ryan on wedding hypotheticals that made them both blush. Not rushing, Jason laughed, but the word wedding lingered, a dream deferred. One night, post-dinner, Jeffrey pulled Jason to the garage man cave of tools and half-built shelves. Remember these? He nodded at birdhouses gathering dust. Jason smiled faint. Yeah, you promised we'd paint 'em blue. Jeffrey handed him a brush, cans unearthed. Still can. They worked side by side, silence companionable, paint flecking fingers. Proud of the man you're becoming, Jeffrey said, voice low. Takes guts, what you do. Jason paused, roller dripping. Learned from you, Dad. The standing up part. Jeffrey's eyes glistened. Wish I'd shown it sooner. The moment cracked open old scars, but healing followed. Stories swapped, laughs unearthed. Jeffrey confessed the therapy breakthroughs. Faced my biases head-on. Realized love ain't uniform. Jason nodded, tears hot. Means everything. Tommy thrived in foster care, weekly check-ins blooming into mentorship. Wanna be like you, he said over ice cream, eyes bright. Jason waved it off. Be you. That's enough. But inside, purpose solidified, the center not just surviving, but expanding, grants flowing on Jeffrey's connections. Yet conflict crested brutal. Harlan's suit dragged, discovery dredging Jason's past. College protests, old emails deemed inflammatory. Paparazzi staked the apartment, flashes like gunfire. Ryan's bar gig soured, Harlan's ally irregular, tipping heavy but leering. Heard your boys stirring shit. The man slurred one night. Ryan's restraint frayed. He comped the tab and barred the door. The breaking point hit mid-November, gray skies weeping. Jason home late from a legal meet, key turning to find Ryan packing a duffel. Clothes haphazard, face wrecked. What the? Jason's voice splintered. Ryan wouldn't meet his eyes. Foreman called. Laid off officially. Conflicts of interest. He zipped the bag, shoulders slumped. Can't sponge off you, Jay. Need space to figure this. Betrayal lanced deep. Not anger, but abandonment's ache. Space? After everything. Jason's hands shook. Harlan's winning if we fold. Ryan's jaw clenched. Not folding. Surviving. He shouldered the bag, pausing at the door. Love you. Always. Then gone, the click echoing like a gunshot. Jason sank to the floor, sobs racking, the pin mocking from the jacket hook. He called Jeffrey at 2 a.m., voice raw. He's gone. Ryan left. Jeffrey arrived at dawn, coffee and silence in tow. They sat on the stoop, city stirring around them. Hurts like hell, Jason choked. Jeffrey pulled him into a bear hug. Does, but pain passes. You fight through. Days blurred, center on autopilot, Ryan's text sparse. Staying with buddy. Miss you. Jason threw into work. The suit's climax a hearing downtown. Marble halls echoing hollow. Harlan testified slick, denying slurs, painting Jason the villain. Activist overreach, his lawyer sneered. Jeffrey countered from the stand. Files in hand, voice thunder. This man's oath was to serve, not scorn. The judge's gavel fell days later. Suit dismissed. Harlan fired outright. Department reforms mandated. Sensitivity training. Oversight boards. Cheers erupted in the center's victory party. Toasts to justice. Tommy hugged Jason fierce. You did it. Ellen beamed. Jeffrey clapped his back. We did. But elation soured without Ryan. Jason wandered their empty apartment. Ghosts in every corner. Ryan's flannel on the chair. Coffee mug ringed on the table. He texted, hearing win. Wish you here. Dots danced, then proud. Talk soon? Forgiveness brewed slow. Jeffrey mediated. A call bridging. Come for Thanksgiving. All of us. Ryan agreed, tentative. The holiday table groaned. Turkey, Ellen's yams. Ryan across from Jason, eyes soft. Talk flowed cautious, then easy. Football fosters futures. After pie, as dishes cleared, Ryan pulled Jason to the porch, November stars sharp. I panicked. Thought leaving protected you. Jason's breath fogged. Protected? It gutted me. Ryan cupped his face. Won't happen again. In it all the way. Kiss followed, tentative then deep, mending the rift. Inside, Jeffrey watched from the window, smiling faint. A father reclaiming his place. But the arc bent toward climax's edge. Harlan, unmoored, escalated. A brick through the center's window, scrawled Ferry's end. Threats escalated, voicemails venomous, shadows tailing Jason. Police details posted, but fear festered. He's unraveling, Jeffrey warned, face grim. Stay vigilant. Ryan moved back, their nights reclaiming intimacy. Hands linked, whispers weaving dreams. Marry me, Ryan murmured one dawn, ring simple silver. Jason's yes was a vow, the pin beside it on the nightstand. Yet danger crested. December's eve, snow blanketing Pilsen. Jason locked up late. Footsteps crunched. Harlan, wild-eyed, bottle in fist. You ruined me, you little shit. Lunged, breath rank. Jason dodged, heart hammering, pin snagging on brick as he backed against the wall. It's over, Harlan. Walk away. But Harlan swung, glass shattering, shards biting air. Sirens wailed, Jeffrey, tipped by a patrol, barreling in with backup. Stand down, he roared, wrenching Harlan's arm, cuffs clicking final. Harlan spat. Traitor dad for a fag son. Jeffrey's face stone. My son's more man than you'll ever be. Jason sagged against the wall, snow melting cold on his skin, Ryan's arms finding him in the chaos. "Safe," Ryan breathed. Jeffrey nodded, eyes fierce. Family holds. Winter gripped Chicago in iron fists, but spring's whisper teased early. Crocuses pushing through snow like defiant hopes. The center rebuilt stronger. Reinforced glass, expanded programs, a mural blooming where the brick had scarred. Fists raised in rainbow hues. Harlan's trial loomed, but his fire dimmed in county lockup, charges stacking like indictments. Assault, harassment, civil rights violations. Jeffrey testified again, his words a scalpel dissecting the rot. Jason and Ryan planned quiet. A courthouse wedding come May, rings engraved with together. The apartment filled anew. Ryan's tools on the counter, Jason's files alphabetized beside. Mornings brewed coffee strong, evenings walks along the lake, where waves lapped stories of survival. Tommy graduated foster care into community college, majoring social work. "Your fault," he grinned at the ceremony, cap tassel swinging. Jason hugged him tight. "Nah, yours." Ellen stayed through thaw, nesting in Oak Park, her presence a glue. She and Ryan bonded over recipes, Jeffrey over White Sox games. Beers cracked, banter flowing. One Sunday, post-brunch, Jeffrey pulled Jason aside in the yard. Birdhouses finally blew on the shelf. Therapy's ongoing. Learning to listen. Jason smiled. "You're acing it, Dad." The wedding was simple. Boys Town Chapel, center kids as ushers, Jeffrey walking Jason down the aisle, hand in hand, no limp in his step. Ryan waited, eyes shining, vows exchanged under stained glass rainbows. "In the currents," Ryan said. "You steady me," Jason's reply, "and you pull me to shore." Reception spilled into the streets, laughter chasing confetti. Jeffrey toasted, voice thick. "To love that endures, to family forged, not born." Glasses clinked, tears fell joyful. Months blurred into rhythm. Center thriving, Ryan's new gig at a union site, Harlan's shadow banished. Jason's book deal landed, memoir of pins and precincts, proceeds to queer youth funds. Jeffrey consulted part-time, mentoring reforms, his badge retired but spirit vigilant. One June Eve, lakeside picnic. 4 of them, plus Tommy and a date. Jason leaned into Ryan, pin catching sunset gold. "We made it." Ryan kissed his temple. "And keep making." Jeffrey watched, Ellen's hand in his, the chasm bridged full. Betrayal scars faded, not gone but gilded, reminders of resilience. In America's heart, where divides run deep as rivers, love proved the strongest current, carrying them home. The city hummed on, restless and raw, but for Jason, it sang, a symphony of second chances, where a pin sparked not just a fight, but a family reborn.